Hey, top of the morning, everybody. Welcome to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Latzia. No NFL, no NBA. Major League Baseball continues to dig its own grave. It's a Christmas miracle we're even able to fill the next 55 minutes, but a large portion of that will be spent talking college basketball, the Florida Swing teeing off on the PGA Tour, and a recap of Friday's Geoff Ulrich NBA and NASCAR special. And speaking of our DraftKings Swiss Army knife, he's standing by to talk about what's cooking on this 5-game NHL slate, along with RotoWire's Paul Bruno. It is a slate, guys, that gets going at 1 o'clock Eastern time because of a couple President's Day matinees here in the United States. But starting in DFS, who is your favorite center tonight, Paul?
Well, it's Family Day here in Canada, too, so we got a holiday here as well. And I'm going to tee up my lineup with Austin Matthews against Montreal. He loves playing against the Canadians as long as it's not a playoff series. He kills them in the regular season, so I'm all over the $9,200 price tag for him. And Elias Lindholm has been on fire in the middle of the hottest line in hockey for Calgary, so that's a solid play against Edmonton and a rivalry matchup there for $7,500, a tasty value as well. Sebastian Aho might have the best value of all centers, though. $7,000 for Carolina's number one guy. It looks like a points night against Philadelphia in one of the early matchups here today. That looks like the best matchup to me on the board.
All right, Geoff, what do you want here, dude? Center.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Leafs have a 4.4 implied goal total today. So, I mean, I actually think that you should be thinking about like their entire lineup. I mean, this is one of the biggest goal totals, like just in terms of one team total that we've seen all season. I think John Tavares is actually really interesting at 7,300, just as more of like a game theory play. I mean, maybe you play him with Austin Matthews, but both the Leafs center certainly should be worthy of your consideration for daily fantasy hockey purposes. I would tend to agree with what Paul brought up, though, with Sebastian Aho. I think that, like, from a pure value standpoint, if you're paying up for someone, I mean, look, he's playing the Flyers, so we can sit here and you know, suggest that Montreal's terrible and that they're a great matchup, and they are. But, like, the Flyers are pretty much on par with the Canadians in a lot of defensive metrics. So I think Sebastian Aho at 7,000, I mean, especially with everybody likely piling on the Leafs here, with the Colorado centers in play, I think Aho's got a good chance of just being like not too heavily owned. And on a 5-game slate, like your rosters will appreciate that 7K salary. So he's probably my top play overall.
Hey, Paul, best winger on the slate is who and why?
Well, it's Mitch Marner on the right wing for Austin Matthews. That matchup against Montreal, we're gonna be all over that today. I can tell. Geoff and I are in sync. $8,400 the price tag. Marner's getting almost 2 points a game in his last 10 starts, so I love that one. And then Johnny Gaudreau, right with him, 12 points in his last 10 games played, 30 shots on goal for Calgary. It's the Battle of Alberta today. That always spikes value and interest in this game. $7,900 the price tag there. Andrei Svechnikov, though, back to the Carolina roster. He's got that matchup against Philadelphia. I think it's a day when you can try and stack at least 2/3 of that line. $6,500 the price tag there for a guy who's got 8 goals and 38 shots on goal in his last 10 games played. Also playing on the top power play, which should have a field day today.
All right, Geoff, anyone going to have a field day, in your opinion, at wing?
Yeah, I mean, again, like to just taking the same idea that I did at center. I mean, I kind of like William Nylander today at 6,700, just for the simple fact that, you know, a lot of people will be paying up for Marner or Matthews, but if you target that Leafs second line, I mean, you know, you're going to get a lot lower rostership. And look, Nylander and Tavares, they play together just like Marner and Matthews do. They're featured on the power play one. They play all their minutes at even strength. So I like William Nylander in that spot at 6,700, and I really like the guy underneath him, Svechnikov. Again, I mean, this Carolina, Philly, Toronto, Montreal. I mean, you know who the good teams are here. It's not like a big mystery. Svechnikov is a guy who just, you know, his upside at this price is pretty much unmatched. All you have to do is go to his DraftKings sports card or his player card, 21 or more DK fantasy points in 4 of his last 6 games. That is the kind of upside he brings, and at 6,500, just like he's underpriced here. So you've really got to go heavy, in my opinion, on a couple of the Hurricanes and Leafs here. They're good value for a lot of them, and you can still pay up for other stars from other games. But I think for stacking purposes, you got to look at those Leafs top 2 lines and definitely the big guys on Carolina.
Ulrich, what about a defenseman who tickles your fancy? Hook us up.
I really like Mark Giordano today. I mean, the Seattle Kraken, obviously, they're not an offensive powerhouse. They really don't have a great power play. But Giordano has been back and healthy, and he's been featured on the power play one for them late. And it's been clicking a little bit. He's got 3 power play assists over his last 10 games. He's got 3 points in his last 4 games period. He's just been more productive. He's been more like the Mark Giordano we knew from a couple years ago, where the guy is just blocking a ton of shots, getting a ton of shots on goal. He's averaging 4.6 shots on goal and block shots over his last 10 games. He's got a great matchup against Vancouver. I actually like the Kraken today to potentially pull off the upset. They've been playing a little bit better, getting better goaltending, but Giordano especially is in a great spot. This is the worst penalty kill in the league in the Vancouver Canucks. They're operating under a 70% efficiency rate. I think this is a great price for Mark Giordano at 5,400. He's my favorite defenseman for sure.
By the way, Kraken plus 140 on the money line on the DK Sportsbook. Paul, defenseman, who tickles your fancy?
Well, if you're going to look at the 3 games that I've been hammering, I think the top defenseman in each of those winning sides or projected winning sides makes sense. The Morgan Riley, $6,300, the most expensive of all 3 that I'm going to highlight. 28 shots on goal in his last 10 games played, and he's been a centerpiece to this Leaf offense for the last 2 months. Tony DeAngelo has the same profile in Carolina, and he's done a bit of a hot streak as well of late. $6,100 his price tag, and he adds to 23 shots on goal and 14 blocks in his last 10 games played. But the best value, I think, among the top defensemen is Rasmus Andersson for Calgary. He's really emerged as their top scoring defenseman, $5,300 the price tag, and 22 shots on goal, as well as 11 blocks. This guy's doing it at both ends of the ice.
Best NHL value play in DFS. Who you rolling with, Paul?
Well, I like Andrew Mangiapane. He's rediscovered a scoring touch, and he's over 20 goals on the season. And nobody's talking about him on Calgary because everybody's focused on the big line. But he comes in at $4,900 and looks like a real good value play, as well as playing top 6 minutes and top power play minutes as well. Nick Suzuki in a bit of a contrarian play against the Leafs today. He always shows up against Toronto. And I think he's going to get a lot of time on the power play, top unit, and top line at center. $4,500, very cheap price tag for a guy with that profile. It's because the team is not scoring, but he'll show up today, I think. And Elias Pettersson, $4,400 despite picking up 11 points in his last 10 games. I think he's got his offense in gear finally, averaging 10.9 DraftKings points per game, and I think that's his floor today.
Hey, Geoff, who are you looking at for some value?
Yeah, I like Pettersson as well on Seattle. I mean, I just think with the price at whatever he's at there, 4,400, excuse me. I mean, going up against Seattle, I don't mind Seattle, but I mean, there's still a very good matchup for opposing offenses. And Pettersson's just, he's just been a little bit better. The heat has been off him a little bit. He's not necessarily has to carry the team, but I mean, 3 goals in his last 5 games. Paul mentioned, the offensive production has been there a lot more lately. I think him at 4,400 is like, he is much like Tavares and Nylander, targeting that Vancouver second line might just give you a little bit more of a unique build today. And I think you can go over to the other side, though, with the Kraken. I mean, I think Calle Jarnkrok at 3,700 is a very good play as well. Like, it's top power play minutes. I mentioned this Vancouver power play. And Jarnkrok's got 3 goals in his last 5 games as well. So I think there's really good value with the top liners for Seattle today. I don't say that very often, but Jarnkrok is definitely one of my favorite. And you can pair him with Giordano. That's a great, little mini power play stack for Seattle tonight.
Let's move over to the DraftKings Sportsbook here, dudes. Geoff, what's a game total you're targeting?
Yeah, I'm going to target the over in this Winnipeg Calgary Flames game. I mean, like the Flames, everyone's just kind of waiting for them to cool off. But I mean, I don't really know what the point is here. You just keep playing the overs on this team until they put up a couple stinkers. But I mean, the Jets have played a little bit better of late, but it's not been because of their defense or their goaltending. I mean, they've still allowed 3 or more goals in each of their last 4 games. And I just don't see this team having anyone like the horses on the back end to really slow down this Flames team at all, who, Paul said, like, Mangiapane just rediscovered his scoring touch. Now they've added Tyler Toffoli. This is just going to be too much for the Jets. But the Jets could certainly keep up in a shootout. Like I said, their offense has been a lot better of late. I'm actually surprised this total is still at 6. I'll take the over there, even if it's at minus 115.
All right, Paul, what do you want here, dude?
I'm going to go to the Leafs and Canadians. I don't see how the Canadians keep the Leafs offense under wraps. The line that I'm looking at is the alternate total goal line, and the Leafs could almost reach it by themselves. So I'm saying go for the plus 7.5 total for a plus 220 payoff. I think Winnipeg and Calgary will combine in a big shootout as well. So go to the alternate for 6.5 goals plus for 115 payoff. Carolina and Philadelphia also going to be a big scoring game. 7.5 is the over-under that I'm targeting to go over for a plus 220 payoff there.
All right, Geoff, talking money line or puck line here. I know you mentioned the Kraken. You like the Kraken for the upset. Is that where you're going?
I do. I mean, I'm going to go there at the start. I mean, I'd like a little bit bigger line than plus 140, but I think there's something built into this plus 140 line. I mean, I think it's the fact that, you know, the Kraken have looked okay of late, and the Canucks really haven't. The Canucks allowed 22 goals over their last 4 games. They got plastered by the Islanders at home. They got plastered by the Ducks their last time at home. Like, they really just haven't played well of late. And I think some of those cracks that I mentioned, you know, the special teams, just the defense starting to show. The Kraken have played a little bit better recently. You know, they played the Flames really close. Philip Grubauer, I think, is the main reason I want the Kraken here. He's looked okay in his last couple starts. I do expect him to get the start tonight. That's not guaranteed, but you know, the Canucks were kind of riding some hot goaltending of their own from Thatcher Demko. He's really cooled off, and they don't really have a capable backup right now to turn to. So I think the Kraken may actually, for once, have the edge in net. Their offense has looked a little bit better. They got Giordano working back there. At plus 140, I'm in. I mean, I just don't have that much respect for the Canucks, even if you don't think this line is big enough. I also don't even really mind the over in this one. Again, the Canucks have just been seething goals, you know, allowing goals at an obscene rate here over the last few games, excuse me. So the over 5.5 is interesting, but I definitely like the Kraken. It's my favorite, you know, underdog money line at plus 140.
All right, what do you like here in this department, Paul?
I like this everything that Geoff said, but I don't like any of the other values that are on the favorites in the other games. If you have to go that route, I say Carolina and Calgary are both worth the plus 110, giving up a goal and a half there, but I'm really not too interested in those lines. I think there's lots more value to make other bets that we'll get to shortly.
Okay, cool. Maybe it's like right now. How about like a Slate approved pick here, bud? Favorite bet on the board, Paul?
Absolutely. I'm looking for points night here to happen for the Leafs in Montreal. Matthews and Marner each a good value to get at least 1.5 points. So call for them for each to get 2 points. The payoff for Matthews is plus 135, Marner plus 145. I should also mention that in the last 15 years, when I haven't been in Montreal, the Leafs have a 75% win percentage. So that's good value. I'm not going there tonight. Johnny Gaudreau plus 150 for his effort to get 2 points tonight. I think that's a lock as well. And then team goals in regulation. I like a couple of these. I think Geoff touched on one. Toronto's going to have an easy time getting over the 4.5 goal prop for plus 145 payoff, I think. And same for Carolina with a plus 200 payoff if they get over 4.5 goals tonight too.
Geoff, hook me up with your favorite bet on the board.
Yeah, Paul's just building suspense there. I know his deal. I know what he was doing. He's trying to get to the good stuff. I got some good stuff too. Let's go to the player props. I mean, I mentioned, you know, Paul didn't like too many lines. I honestly didn't like too many of the lines either. I don't mind the Kraken, but I'm not too big on anyone else on the lines and the money lines and stuff. So I found one that I really like. Austin Matthews to score an assist tonight is only minus 120. Dude's got 10 assists in his last 10 games. He's averaging an assist per game. And like I mentioned, the Maple Leafs are playing the Canadiens. They have a 4.4 implied team total. You know, we've already gone over the fact Matthews loves to beat up on Montreal, but at minus 120, I mean, this line is kind of shocking to me. I know Matthews is more of a goal scorer, but he's been playmaking a little bit more of late. These ones just look out of whack. So Austin Matthews, minus 120 to get out of assist. And then my guy, again, Mark Giordano, I'm going all in on Gio this tonight. He's plus 130 just to grab a point. The worst penalty kill in the league. If I think the Seattle Kraken have 3 or 4 goals in them tonight to grab the upset, I got to grab that at plus 130. You can also grab Giordano at plus 295 to score a point on the power play tonight, which I do not hate. I think those odds are juicy enough to do that.